So on to the next tree now. The next tree I'm going to repot is my red maple here. It was collected from the front garden a few years ago. The pot it's in is quite small, and I'm worried that if I leave it in this pot for the whole summer, the roots will become so constricted in here that it'll be hard to water, and I think the health of the tree will decline. So even though I'm repotting this a little late in the season, the leaves are already out, I think it'll be better for the health of the tree in the end. All right, I'll get the tree out of the pot. There we go. Yeah, so quite a dense root system in here already. But I think once I cut away this mat on the bottom, it doesn't look too bad inside here. So I'll start by combing away the surface moss and weeds. Again, it has that Irish moss in there, which again has roots that go down into your soil, and it's hard to get water into your roots of your tree when that's growing on the surface. So I try and avoid it at all costs. A few grubs in the soil on the surface there, or worms or something. I think they're grubs. Probably chewing on the roots. Maybe just the moss, I don't know. So this has been, I think this was the first repotting into this pot. So it went straight from the garden into this little bonsai pot. And it's been here a few years. I can't remember exactly how many, but I'm sure there's a video on it somewhere. So we'll see what the root base looks like. Start combing it out here. I don't expect it to be really good because it's, you know, not a very refined tree yet. Okay, so I'm going to cut off this mat of roots on the bottom. So I'll just take like a layer off. These are just fine roots that can regrow this summer. And this tree doesn't have a huge canopy, so it doesn't need a lot of roots to support the growth that's on it. There is a thick root down there that I've cut through. Another thick root up there. Yeah, there's some thick roots down at the bottom here. They'll have to be pruned away. Another thick one on the bottom here I can prune away. These maples sure love to grow roots. Alright, that looks a little easier to comb out now. I'll go back up top and continue to comb out the roots. On the good side, I don't see any active roots yet, so that's good. That means I'm not too late for repotting this tree. There's no white roots growing, no white root tips, so that means I'm just in time for the repotting. And a lot of people say you should leave maples, the repotting, a little later until the leaves have actually come out a bit. If you do it too early, they tend to bleed a lot. So, I don't know. I've done it both ways. Both seem to work okay, so I don't know. in this case, we're not too late because the roots aren't active yet. It's really dense, these roots. And again, this should have been done earlier, like maybe last year or the year before, but sometimes you just don't get time in spring. I always have like a wish list of all the trees I want to repot, and sometimes I only get about half of them done. But eventually, you know, you do catch up. You keep working away each year, doing the ones that need repotting the most. Like once this is repotted, it can probably, you know, go for at least 2 years in the same pot without repotting. Some trees that have, you know, slower growing roots, you can repot them every 3, sometimes 5 years before they start filling the pot with roots. Okay, I'm going to take it over the dunk tank and wash it, and I'll come back and we'll see how clean I can get this root system. It took about half an hour to get the roots to this stage where I can see them clearly enough that I can begin trimming the roots. So here I go. There is a large root here that was going down, so I'm going to have to prune that off, and I want the roots to taper into the soil, so it's getting kind of high, so I'm going to do an angle cut like this. So here I go. Like that. And then I don't know where this root... Okay, that's separated. There's another root on the bottom here. I'm going to take it off to get my flat root base on the bottom. Like that. There's a root here growing from the top of this root. I'll take that off. Like that. And I got some better radial roots below. So this one could be pruned off just a little shorter. Right here. Like that. There's one that bends down into the ground there. I'll take that off, I think back here. Like that. There's a few roots on the bottom I can prune off to get it a little flatter on the bottom. Get rid of some of these downward facing roots. There goes a train. Okay, let's go back up top here now and have a good look. There's a root here, big thick one that kind of grows a weird direction. I've got to get rid of that. I've got to go right back to here. There's a lot of roots on that attached to that one. They're all tangled in here. Yeah, that was... This tree has kind of a Y-shaped root system on it. So I don't know what I'm going to be left with when I remove this, but there we go. Oh, not much. Yeah, there's a lot coming off that one root. But it's getting it flatter here. Yeah, that's better. It's got this part of it sorted out. I could eventually remove that root, have this whole root system from this one root here. I think I will. This should thicken up and start, you know, it'll have inverse taper for a while, but it should thicken up. So I am going to remove that high root there. Bit of a drastic measure on this tree, but okay, here I go. Like that. So quite a cut on that. So now I'm left with kind of a radial root base here that I can work on in the future. Get rid of that ugly Y-shaped root system on it. Yeah, so this should Should heal over okay. I may nibble that away just a bit more. Okay, so I'll just come in and clean that up a bit, just so it heals a little more flush. Like that. That should be good. Before I plant the tree, I'll do some pruning up top, reducing the height of it. So I'm looking for flowing lines. I would like to take that whole top off here. I'll take it off here. Here. I'm going to take this branch off. It's a little thick and straight. I don't like this one that's on the inside of a curve. And then I've got this one I can prune back. Take the dead part off. Take this dead part off. And that has got it pruned up. Okay, I'll plant it now. I'll get my drainage screens in the pot and a base layer of soil. Now I can position the tree, and I think this is a nice front right here. The tree kind of comes towards you, the apex comes towards you. Really nice. All right, I think I'll offset in the pot slightly and maybe tilt it just a bit. Okay, like that. Then I'll work that soil into the roots. Not a whole lot of roots left. Quite a drastic operation to this tree today. But if it survives, it'll be a better tree for it. If it doesn't survive, I will have learned something. Sometimes you got to take chances on a tree to make a really good tree out of it. Sometimes if you play it safe all the time, you end up with a mediocre tree. And I think this one has the potential to become something really nice. It's just got to live. Live for the next 10 years. Okay, that is planted. Let's give it a watering. Here I go with the water. Get it ready to grow. So it was good timing on this tree. The roots weren't active yet. So I think it does have a good chance of survival. Even though I took a lot of the root system off. I would say, I don't know, 75% of the root system. But I took a lot off the top too. So we'll see what happens. High risk, hopefully high reward work on the maple today. Time will tell if it survives or not. But I don't think I would have ever been happy with that kind of Y-shaped root system under there. So I think if it lives, I'll have a really good tree. If it doesn't, well, nothing ventured, nothing gained. The next tree I'll be potting up is my beech tree. So let's get it out of the pot and see what the roots are like on this. So I don't think this has ever been root pruned. It's probably grown from a seed in this very pot. So I'll begin by raking out the roots. This tree grew really well last year. It pretty well doubled in size. Not sure I've ever had a beech tree as a bonsai before, so something new. Lots of fine roots going into this very organic soil. It looks like there's a big taproot growing down underneath the tree that kind of curled around on the bottom of the pot from what I've seen so far. Okay, so I'll go over and wash the roots and I'll come back and we'll see what they look like. Alright, I'm back with the beech's root system. And so you can see on this side, the trunk comes down and then it forms quite a bulbous root that kind of snakes its way around the bottom here. So this is the tap root, and because it was confined in a pot, it didn't grow straight down. It kind of curled around in the pot. So I've got to remove that. I've got to develop radial surface roots up higher. So I'm going to do a big chop right through here. All right, so I think right here. Here I go. Like that. So that takes a lot of root off. I pruned up the remaining roots, cutting them off where they started to take off in a funny direction, keeping them nice and radial. So it's not an ideal root base yet, but it's a step in the right direction. Before I plant the tree, I'm going to prune off some of the top of it. It's getting a little tall, so I'll reduce it back in height. So here's a look at the tree. So it comes up, it's vertical to this point, and then there's a shoot here that died off, a big side branch. So I'm looking for a place I can prune it back to. So I think this is a good leader here. So I'll take it off there. So here I go. If I can get in here. Hard to get in there. Here, I'll do it this direction. Like that. And then I'll just take the apex back a bit. Like that. And this one back to here. And I'll reduce this one back to here. And that other branch is fine. So there it is, reduced back, ready to plant. All right, I'll put the tree in the pot, and I think, just trying to pick a front here. I think I want the curve off to the side. Yeah, I don't know. I'll put it in this way. I think something like that. All right, I'll fill it in with soil. There's not really many roots to work the soil in around the roots. They were quite a simple root system, so. All right, that is good. I'll give it a water. I think I've got to straighten it up just a little bit. It's a little crooked. Yeah, that's better. Just add a little soil around here. Okay. Now I'll give it a water. I took quite a bit of the roots off of this beech tree, but it's an important step in transitioning it from basically a seedling towards a bonsai root system, getting that flat radial root system that's desirable in a bonsai tree. So if it lives, it's underway as a bonsai. If it doesn't make it, well, you've only lost like a 2-year-old seedling. There's the bunny. I've seen some little baby bunnies hopping around. They're very cute. Hi, bunny. You eating, are you? Very good. The next trees I'll be working on is this pot full of Amur maples and red maples. I'll get them separated and get the roots pruned and growing as a bonsai. All right, I'll get them out of this pot, which is just a, I don't know, some kind of margarine container or something. Looks like a good soil in here, nice and porous. That'll make combing the roots out a lot easier. All right, I don't see any active growth on the roots yet, so that's really good. So I'm not too late to repot these. I'll begin combing out the roots. It looks like these were, you know, in smaller pots and then combined together in this bigger pot. Bit of pea gravel in the bottom here. Kind of nice stuff. I'll collect that and use it for something else. All right, yeah, you can see there's some peat pots in here, and some of the roots have escaped out of the peat pot. Interesting. Every root system's different when you work on these trees. Every tree has a different root system. They all have their own challenges. Now, can I separate these? The red maples from the Amur maples. The Amur maples have really small leaves. They're kind of like a really hardy Japanese maple in looks. So a really good tree for bonsai in really cold climates like here. There's a bit of that liverwort in the soil there. All right, so I've got them separated. I'm going to go over to the washing station. I'll comb out the roots, clean them up, and then come back. I've got all the trees separated now, the little tiny one, the larger one. So these were grown in fairly shallow, I think, seed trays or something. So they've never been pruned, root pruned before, but the tap roots they don't go down very far. They kind of shallow and then they snake off around to the side. So you can see that on all of them, that here's the tap root kind of growing off to the side here. So it's time to get them pruned up. Let's start with the smallest one. So you can see here the tap root comes down and it snakes around. So it's not a lot I can do yet. It's growing some fine roots out here, but you know, eventually we want a radial root base. So I'm going to take the tap root off here, like that. The next one, I think I'll have to come in and remove that bottom tap root. So here I go. It's hard to see it, it's so dense with roots. There it goes. I got part of it off. That may be enough to get a nice radial root base started. I think it is, once I comb that out. I'm going to do a bit of combing here. Yeah, I think that's pretty good. It's a little weak, the roots on this side, a little strong on this side, so I'll prune back some of the ones facing different directions. There's one growing out the top here. These ones are too high up top here. I'll get rid of those. I even think these two are too high, so I'll get rid of those. And this one here. That's getting towards a better root base. Trim off some of these long roots here. That's pretty good. That'll do. Now onto the red maples. So similar thing, here's my taproot going off to the side, so I'll want to get rid of that. It's too strong. And grow my radial roots instead. I'm just going to take a slice off the bottom, like that. Cut off some of these roots facing downwards. There's a strong root coming off here, I'll prune back. Another one here. This one comes off. Snakes off at a weird angle, I'll reduce it back. Do a bit of a profile prune. This one doesn't flow into the soil very nicely, I'll get rid of that. And I think this one's too high, so I'm going to get rid of that one also. Like that, that's a start of a good radial root system. Okay, that one's ready. And now the last tree here in this clump. Let's see what I've got here. I've got kind of smushed up against the side of the pot there. I've got a very high root here I'll remove. I'm going to have to take a slice off the bottom. There's the remains of the taproot here. Or, you know, not the remains of it, but the existence of it down there that I got to prune away. So that's kind of got a flat root base on the bottom. I'll just kind of equalize these roots. And, you know, I'll get something growing out in a nice radial direction now that it'll be planted in a pot where it can grow a little more. Yeah, I think that's about it for that tree. I'm going to do a little top pruning on these trees too. So on this Amur maple, there's a dead branch going up the center here. I'll remove like that. And then I'm coming up one, dividing into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 branches in one area, which, you know, is all right. I think I'll remove the skinny one from the bottom. It's not really contributing too much. It simplifies it a bit. And I think the rest are okay. So I'm going to reduce them in height back to some good branches. There's some leaves, so I'll take the top off there. Here, here, and here. I'll take this back a bit further. I'm taking the top back to buds that face outwards, so it'll continue to fan outwards when it resumes growth. So that one's pruned up. The little one's fine, I won't touch that. The first red maple, well, I'll take the top off here. Just keeping the 2 branches. And the really tall one, well, there's buds all over here, growth on the top. I'll just leave it as is, and then if something develops down lower, I can prune it back later. Alright, so they're all ready for planting now. I'm going to plant the red maples in this pot that used to have that fairly thick trunk red maple in, that one that kind of curled around. I think that'll be a good sized pot for these 2 seedlings. So I'll get it filled with soil, base layer, and I'll put the tall one here, and we'll put the other one over here like that. Not really arranging them, but just giving them space to grow in the pot. So it's not a very artistic arrangement. More a horticultural convenience or practicality. You'd be amazed at these little seedlings. You know, in 3 to 5 years, they can go from looking like sticks in a pot to something that begins to look like a nice tree. All right, I'll give these a water. And they can go on the bench. It's time to pot up the Amur maples now, and I don't have any Amur maple bonsai, so I'm going to use the bigger pot and grow them in here, both of these little trees. I think that'll give them lots of room to grow for maybe a couple of years before I repot them once again. I've got drainage screens in the pot, so I'll add a base layer of soil. Like that. And then I'll plant the first Amur maple. I'm just trying to find a front. I think here's okay. I'll put that in the pot there. The little one can just go over beside it here. These trees have lots of growing to do in the future. But they're off to a start. So I planted them fairly deeply in the pot. Make sure the roots don't dry out. And I'll put stones around these ones also, just to make sure they don't tip over in the pot or anything in the wind. I don't think they would, but... Okay, time to water them. Root pruning these small seedlings may seem quite extreme, but it's a really important step in getting these trees underway as a bonsai, getting that kind of flat, radial, balanced root system. It's probably the most important step in these trees' journey as a bonsai. You know, taking it from a raw seedling to something that you can work on and refine far into the future. So that's it for these trees. I'll put them on the bench. I'll place some rocks around just to hold them in place. And then we'll work on the last group, my silver maples.